Welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to make bread in a Dutch oven the way I make it. I don't really follow a recipe very much, but I use sort of a recipe and sort of measurements. So I will have the recipe for you, but I'm going to be using spent grains from beer making. So Drop Bear Brewery, I've got their grains. So I like to put that in the bread. It adds good texture and flavor. So I'm doing cranberry and walnut Dutch oven bread today. So I start off with my salt, a tablespoon. I don't normally use the tablespoon measure. I just eyeball it. Then I like to put my flours in. So a cup of whole wheat flour is my first. Then 3.5 cups of flour. I use the organic flours. This is just an all-purpose that I got from Costco. Then I like to put my grains in, roughly a cup of spent grains or mash, whatever you want to call it. Always like to wear a glove when I'm going to mix. So I like to mix all this together first. Make sure it's all well mixed. Then I like to add my teaspoon of yeast, my cup roughly of chopped walnuts, and my cup of cranberries. Again, mix it all together. Just makes it easier when you put the water in. Break up the cranberries a bit so it spreads around. Okay, once I've done that, I then put my water in. There's no need to knead this bread, just make sure everything's mixed together. So then I put my water in a bit at a time. I don't like to put it all in at once, just in case I put too much, the texture's too wet, so I like to add it a bit at a time and then mix it. And it's warm water that you should be adding. This helps to activate the yeast. And as you mix, you can see if all the flour's mixing in well together. You don't want it too sloppy, but you don't want it too dry. And I just like to make sure it's really well mixed. Okay, that's it. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to cover it with a tea towel. I'm going to leave it overnight, and we'll come back to it in the morning. You'll see it, how much it's risen, and we'll take it from there. So we've left it overnight to rise. If you want to have a look here, you'll see how much it's risen. So once that's done, I get some parchment paper. I go through this a lot. So I like to put it on the bench. We'll get some flour. I like to put some flour on my parchment paper. And then we're going to tip it out onto here. And I just get a spatula, poke around in there. Then I get some flour on my hands. I like to spread it out a bit. And then you can see the cranberries and the walnuts. And then I just fold it over on itself. Adding a little bit of extra flour. Once this is done, I shape it, and then I get it and I flip it and add a little bit more flour to the top of it. Okay, then I get some plastic saran wrap, and then I'm going to lay that over the top of it. And these never ever work to wrap properly. Okay, so now I'm going to leave this for another 2 hours. Just leave it on your counter to rise for another 2 hours, and then we'll come back to it and we'll do the final cooking stage. So I'm going to lift it up, and I'm just going to put it straight in the pot. Then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more of the cornmeal on the top. I just like the texture. Then I'm going to put the lid back on, and we're going to bake it for 30 minutes with the lid on. So we set the timer, 30 minutes, and we wait. And then when that's done, we'll pull it out, take the lid off, and we'll cook it for another 20 minutes. We're at time now for the 30 minutes of the first cook. So I'm gonna take it out because it's the easiest way to do it. For me anyway. Take the lid off. See, it's risen really, really nicely. It looks great. So I'm gonna put it back in the oven for another 20 minutes now. Okay, 20 minutes and we'll be good. We're done. And doesn't it look fabulous? So I like to get it out of the pot pretty quickly. There you go. Fresh loaf of bread all ready. And that's how easy it was.